We are just over 24 hours through NFL free agency at the time I'm recording this. It's about 3:30 on Tuesday, so I'm sure news will be bound to break after I do this video, but for right now, a lot of big and unexpected signings have happened in the NFL, and we're going to run through them real quick. So if you guys enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So we'll start with the team that basically stole all the headlines, the New England Patriots, and I guess it's safe to say that Bill Belichick was not satisfied going 7-9 last year. So we know they re-signed Cam Newton for a one-year deal, they traded for Trent Brown recently last week, but they signed Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Jonnu Smith for 4 years, $50 million, Hunter Henry for 3 years and $37.5 million. Now you can say that the New England Patriots probably had the most underwhelming group of tight ends in the NFL, but now they might be like top 5 in the NFL when you put Smith and Henry together. They had Devin Asiasi, Matt Lacoste, Ryan Izzo, Dalton Keene, but when you improve the Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, that should be a huge difference for the Patriots tight end room. They also signed Matthew Judon, a very productive outside linebacker the past 2 years, to a 4-year, $56 million deal. Wide receiver Nelson Agholor, they definitely needed wide receiver help, and Agholor had a pretty nice year with the Las Vegas Raiders doing the job that Henry Ruggs was supposed to do. They signed cornerback / safety Jalen Mills from the Philadelphia Eagles, wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, who's a pretty nice red zone option. As I mentioned, traded for Trent Brown, and even re-signed Dietrich Wise. They signed a run-stopping defensive tackle from the Miami Dolphins. They have done a lot so far in free agency, and the Patriots are a team that I thought had a chance to rebuild, but now they signed all these guys in free agency. Maybe they trade a lot of draft picks and try to trade up for a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance in April. We'll find out what happens there. Speaking of the New England Patriots, the Chiefs signed the left guard formerly of the Patriots, Joe Thuney, for a 5-year, $80 million deal. He's still in the prime of his career. He's one of the best pass-blocking left guards in football. Definitely will help Patrick Mahomes. And an offensive line that lost both their tackles due to being released, Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. So the Chiefs, while maybe they overpaid here a bit, definitely needed some offensive line help, so I don't see a problem with that move. The Los Angeles Chargers definitely needed some offensive line help for Justin Herbert, and they signed Corey Linsley, the former center for the Green Bay Packers, for a 5-year, $62.5 million contract. Their center, Mike Pouncey, retired this past season. He was injured last year. They also signed an offensive lineman, Matt Filer, who was formerly with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a really underrated offensive lineman. They get him for $7 million per year, basically. I thought that was a good signing as well. The Jacksonville Jaguars got their man opposite of CJ Henderson. They signed Shaquille Griffin for 3 years, $44.5 million. Griffin was really good in 2018 and 2019, took a bit of a step back in a contract year, but still got himself a good amount of money. He's still young, so I would say it's a pretty good signing for Jacksonville. These two moves just happened for Jacksonville, but apparently they signed wide receiver Marvin Jones, who was with the Lions and previously of the Cincinnati Bengals, for 2 years and $14.5 million. Gives them a good outside weapon for Trevor Lawrence when he eventually gets there. And they also traded for defensive tackle Malcolm Brown, who was going to be released by New Orleans, but I guess they found the trade partner here. Brown is a pretty good run stopper. He formerly played with the New England Patriots and played a couple years in New Orleans, so a solid player. We'll see what they traded him for when the details come out. The Ravens got a right guard, which they needed badly. They got Kevin Zeitler, who's now on his third AFC North team, formerly of the Bengals and the Browns. They signed him for 3 years, $22.5 million. Being a Giants fan, I've watched him the past couple years, a pretty consistent guy, solid player. The Ravens had a lot of problems replacing Marshall Yanda when he retired last year, so I guess Kevin Zeitler's a good replacement option for him. The Cleveland Browns signed safety John Johnson from the LA Rams for 3 years and $33.7 million, which is one of my favorite signings so far. I thought from a value standpoint, and John Johnson coming off an awesome year, I thought that was a good move. Johnson can play the pass and play the run, can play strong safety, free safety, very versatile player, athletic, and the Browns have definitely embraced analytics and positional value since Andrew Berry has taken over. They are building through their secondary that adds to Grant Delpit coming back for year 2, Ronnie Harrison, Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, and maybe Carl Joseph if they resign him. They also signed defensive end Takk McKinley, the former first-round pick of the Atlanta Falcons, for 1 year and $4.25 million. The Denver Broncos signed cornerback Ronald Darby for 3 years and $30 million. He was 5th in the NFL last year with 16 passes defended. They just recently released AJ Bouye, so the former Eagle and former Washington football team corner seems like a good replacement option there, and the Broncos have a lot of young cornerbacks there, so to bring in a veteran who's still playing at a high level seems like a good move to me. The Chicago Bears, they just brought in quarterback Andy Dalton for a 1 year, $10 million deal, so apparently they're still holding out hope that they can land a Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, but for right now, their contingency plan is Andy Dalton, so it's not the worst move in the world. Dalton played okay with the Cowboys last year, still in his mid-30s, so maybe he has something left to offer. The Cincinnati Bengals, they lost Carl Lawson to the Jets, who we'll go over later, but they just signed defensive end Trey Hendrickson, who had 13.5 sacks last year with the Saints. He was part of that incredible 2017 draft draft class with New Orleans, and although he did not get much playing time his first 3 years, he finally got the playing time this year, and I think was second in the NFL in sacks in 2020. The Minnesota Vikings, they signed defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson, who holds a special place in my heart. He was a great Giant, awesome guy. They signed him for 2 years, $22 million. The Vikings were not that good against the run last year after losing Linval Joseph to the Chargers the previous offseason, so Dalvin Tomlinson seems like a really good signing to them, still in the prime of his career. The Washington football team, they signed quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. There were some rumors that he might retire, but they signed him for 1 year and $12 million. I think it's a good move. I mean, Washington, they did sign Taylor Heineke. They released Alex Smith. They, of course, don't have Dwayne Haskins anymore. So I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is the best quarterback on that roster currently. We'll see what Washington does in the draft, but just to have Ryan Fitzpatrick there is definitely a good move in my opinion. The Tennessee Titans, they needed a pass rusher very badly. They tried it with Vic Beasley. They tried it with Jadeveon Clowney. Didn't exactly work out. They go with outside linebacker Bud Dupree for 5 years, $82.5 million, which is a lot of money coming off an ACL tear, but Dupree is still in the prime of his career, played it very well in 2019, so we'll see if that pays off for Tennessee. The New York Giants made a couple of smaller moves, one of them wide receiver John Ross, formerly with the Cincinnati Bengals, for 1 year and $2.5 million. He was once a top 10 pick in the draft a few years back, ran a 4.22 40, as most of you guys know. He's had a lot of inconsistencies throughout his career and has been injured a few times as well, but it seems like a low risk, high reward type of move for the Giants. They also brought in running back Devontae Booker, who was with the Las Vegas Raiders and formerly of the Denver Broncos, for 2 years and $6 million. He's coming off his best season in the NFL in 2020 when he was backing up Josh Jacobs. The New York Jets, they signed wide receiver Corey Davis for 3 years and $37.5 million. Davis is coming off his best season, a former top 5 pick, I believe, with the Titans. He got much better once Ryan Tannehill took over for Marcus Mariota, but still has never had 1,000 yards in his career. We'll see if him or Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever the quarterback is, meshes in 2021. They also signed defensive end Carl Lawson, who I was a big fan of, made a whole video about him, how he's underrated. 3 years and $45 million. I think that move will pay off for the Jets. They also brought in inside linebacker Jared Davis for 1 year and $7 million, a former first-round pick with the Detroit Lions. He was good his first 2 years. Then Matt Patricia got there. He kind of fell off, got injured as well. So we'll see if he can bounce back next to CJ Mosley, who should come back next year for the Jets coming off the COVID leave. So as of 5:30 on Tuesday here, that should pretty much be it. The Miami Dolphins just signed Colts backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett for a 1 year deal, so that's the newest one. Some other guys that stayed with their teams, outside linebacker Shaq Barrett stayed in Tampa Bay for 4 years and $72 million. Defensive end Romeo Okwara stayed with the Detroit Lions for 3 years and $39 million. Running back Aaron Jones stayed with the Packers, as we know. Linebacker Levante David stayed with Tampa Bay. Outside linebacker Leonard Floyd went back to the Rams for 4 years and $64 million, a big payday for him. And the Giants just re-signed Leonard Williams and extended him for a 3 year and $63 million contract. So that'll do it for this video. Leave in the comments if you guys enjoyed this format. I could make another video like this in about a week or so, going over the other moves to be made in the future, and I'll talk to you guys next time.